in SAP Business by Design with your host, Laura Harkalow. My name is Catherine, and I'll be facilitating today as per usual. As the session will be recorded, everyone will remain on mute, and we will send out that recording to you in a few days via email. And then don't forget to join us next week. That's Wednesday, May the 12th, for our next Q&A Cafe. That's tenant refreshes in SAP Business by Design. Without further ado, I will, and sorry, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the questions or the chat box, and we will get to them towards the end of this presentation. Okay, now, without further ado, I will hand it over to Laura.
Great, thanks, Catherine. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining on your lunch hour or thereabouts close to your lunch hour for this week's exciting Q&A Cafe. Today, we're going to go through Information Lifecycle Management. For most of you on the phone, you may or may not know what it is or what it does, or not have to deal with it because it really hasn't made it our way in the country yet. But it is quite an important topic if you're doing business in Europe or Singapore, or if even in California. California is now starting to implement some new global data policy structures, policies that we need to adhere to, and ByDesign does a very good job of being able to track that stuff. So what we're going to cover first, what is it? The scope of what does the whole data privacy, what are the concepts, what's covered in ByDesign. We'll show you some screenshots of how to set everything up. And then we'll kind of walk through a couple examples so you can see it in action, look at the reports, look at the KPIs and things like that. And I'll probably jump back and forth so you can see some of the configuration as we go through within the different slides. As Catherine mentioned, put anything that you need in the chat. I think within the actual GoToWebinar, there is, the attachments are in there. So this presentation will be available to you. And then they'll also, I think they're always available a few days later on our resources page. So let's hop to it. What is Information Lifecycle Management? So globally, any system like Business by Design will store sensitive master data and transactional data in order to perform the processes. Obviously, if you want to perform a sales order, you need to have a customer, a contact record, and the employee responsible when we talk about Business by Design. And some of that information may also contain other information, like the employee responsible might have things like their military status, disability status, social security numbers, and things like that. Some countries, there are new statutory data protection laws pertaining to this, the storage, being able to disclose information to the person that's requesting it, and then the deletion of personal data from the system. So as I mentioned, probably one of the largest ones right now is the GDPR that came into effect around 2018 across the whole EU. Other countries like China, Singapore, I can't remember off the top of my head, the other one that, the other few that I read, are coming into the same types of requirements, and quickly the US will probably most likely be following suit, as we've seen have seen a lot of things in the news lately around what data companies collect from us. California is probably the first state in the country to institute the California Consumer Privacy Act. So this will become a more critical place for you to start to learn what's going on. So within the past 5 to 6 releases, ByDesign has released and it has been enhancing the ability to adhere to these ever-changing and new global compliance standards. For those of you that have been on ByDesign for a few years, you may have noticed, a lot of effort being put into this. This is a very huge topic, and it encompasses a lot, as you'll see when we go through the demo of really how far-reaching this is to be able to track and retain data and things like that. But it also does some other things too, not necessarily that you would need for data privacy, but also document retention, being able to retain and store documents in the system. And then there is a new called the Information Lifecycle Management Work Center. There used to be a Data Privacy and Protection Work Center that was that came out when the feature first was released, but since then, because the topics have become so broad, they were able to consolidate a lot of the things that they were doing into more summary type actions, and you've got just a really nice information lifecycle management work center. And then just, SAP is one of the first companies to receive global certification from BSI for the standard for global data compliance. And you won't find that with a lot of other ERP solutions. They'll hang their hats on things like change control and whatnot. But, ByDesign is really taking care of quite a bit of this and is continuing to add on the functionality. So what kinds of things does it cover in ByDesign? One, for general business partners. So when I say general business partners, I mean data for the actual blood and guts people, so not your companies, can be disclosed and then subsequently can be deleted from the system. Things like your private accounts, if you're a B2C type of a company, contacts, your internal and external employees, your service agents, and then any leads that are in the system without any account master data. So we're always going to keep that account data, and we'll show you how we can, if things can't be deleted, how they can be blocked, and where if you have the need to hide personal data within your system without being able to delete everything, how you can block them so nobody else can see their sensitive data. There's also the data retention periods. We'll go into that within the configuration, where you can configure minimal retention and residence periods for key business documents in order to control whether they become read-only or to automatically delete a lot of data. Don't get scared when I say that. We'll talk about that in a little bit more about data deletion. And then you can block the usage of data. So you can manually or automatically block the usage of data for new business processes, which means the business persons, where I can block their usage, or if they are set to have some deletion done to them, I can always block them from deletion too. You always have that power on a case-by-case basis or partner-by-partner basis to be able to either block or prevent the blockage of a business partner. And then there's also read access logging. Logging will create change logs and read access logs for special categories of personal data, things like your religion, race, etc. There's things for accessing attachments and whatnot. We'll go through the lists when we jump into the system, but basically if someone goes in and actually makes a change to a particular section of data within a business partner record, or looks at certain data, the system will log it, and there's a nightly job that actually tracks all that, and you'll be able to see what the results of those logs are. Some other things which we're not really going to get into today, but they're always something just to keep in mind from just an overall lifecycle management and data privacy perspective. There's also within the system itself, or within the account master, the ability to manage your marketing permissions. Basically, what does the person want to subscribe to or not? Overall, within the contact, you can specify that you're not permitted to contact them at all, which then feeds itself into like your marketing campaigns or things like that. So you can actually send them emails out en masse, as well as at a more granular level, if they're part of a particular campaign or campaign channel, you can actually specify which types of campaigns they want to be contacted with. And then just our standard authorization policy, being able to grant and revoke data to only users which need data. And a lot of systems might not have that level of detail. So we can really go down to a very specific level of detail within, say, things like your country, your business company, your business residence, or as a salesperson, things that you're just responsible for, and other areas that get down to a real granular level of detail. And then just the web service encryption. So what data can flow to third-party tools and what can't. So really very much all-encompassing of the whole system, is very targeted towards really that ability for privacy. How do we activate this? It's really, really simple. It's only one scoping configuration and one question. With it, but it's kind of way down into the weeds within the business configuration. So you'll go into business config, go into scoping, under your built-in services and support, and then under system management, there is an option here called Information Lifecycle Management, and you'll pop that on and you're ready to go. Move on to the questions. And then in the questions where you would assume that potentially that same question would be under Information Lifecycle Management, surprise, surprise, it's under security. So go into the same area, business services and support, built-in services and support, system management and security. And there's an option here for data privacy, which asks you if you want to switch on the read access logging for sensitive personal data. You'll check that guy, and then you'll get the read access log within the system. If you don't turn that on, you just don't get that, but you still have the other capabilities within the ILM area, which would be your document retention and deletion and the business partner disclosure and things like that. All right, once you get through your scoping, now we'll get into the configuration, which is obviously within your fine tuning and business config. So what you'll see in the system, if you just go into retention, there's an option in here. So when I pop in, you'll see a lot of things that will pop up from the old, or the first iteration of the configuration here. I'm working on it somewhere else. But here you'll notice that you've got this view, the views, these are all deprecated. So these are all the business partner data removal. The one that you want to focus on is this business partner deletion, retention periods for business documents. So when I open this guy, I'm not going to be able to do anything to it because I'm in it somewhere else. But we'll walk through it. And so what's already been pre-configured for you are 4 groups of data. And you've got the financial and tax audit relevant, legal and process relevant. Obviously, we don't want you to go total cowboy in here and start deleting documents that when an auditor comes in, things have magically disappeared and you can't prove to the auditor. So as this first iteration came out, the residence period can be set, which means any documents that are sitting within this or outside of this 4-year period come 12/31 will get set automatically to a read-only status. The retention periods, meaning when I can delete a particular document, have been locked down. You can, if you want to. They're trying to really control the data and stuff. So if you request to SAP that you want to lessen that period, then you can just request it through a ticket, and they'll get back to you on that. However, there's lots of other data through early life cycle data management and deletion after document retention period. You'll notice here that there are the number of assigned retention rules. So you've got over 200 that are sitting here that are going to be available for deletion. And if you select the assigned retention rules, you can see exactly where any of these, what these rules are. So basically it's basically all of your business documents, or there's a lot of master data or things in here. So, it just runs the whole gamut. There'll be ones that can be set to company specific. You might have a US entity that needs 7 years, where you might have an EU entity that needs 10 years for particular data. With that, under the retention periods, you can actually create all of your default company retention rules. Obviously, 1 rule per group. You can also create new groups where you might move 1 rule to another. So as you're in here, we can click on the assigned rules, and these will be ones that where they are in their current grouping. and I can move them to group 3, or I can take an existing rule out of group 3 and move that to one of my newer groups. It's really just shuffling around the data. And then you can see your retention rule data that's in here, of what's going to be retained and what's going to be deleted. So you're in this example, purchasing contracts with the status closed, which are the rejected, canceled, and things like that, or in revision, which actually is kind of a nice thing. If you look at some of the rules and what's in here, you might have a lot of junk that's sitting around that people started and they haven't done anything with. One of the nicer areas that I found, again, is like in the CRM area, things like activities that are just in process and haven't been started, or opportunities that are in preparation, quotes that are in preparation. So not only is it good for just your compliance, but it's also a nice little housekeeping type of option in here. And typically I'll go in and check my consistency whenever I'm done creating my rules and making sure that each of those are going to be consistent. It's going to show you each of those different things. You've got your options in here about your residence period of, whether you want it for months or years, and then relative to month, quarter, year end. You're not just relegated to that year end type of data retention determination policy. All right. So that is the configuration on that. So again, you can set the retention periods for groups or companies. You can create new groups, and then again, just reiterating, you can reassign any of those document types or those rules between different groups. Most likely the financial and the legal ones, I haven't necessarily played around with it too much, that you're not going to be able to move those two to different areas because they are very specific to making sure like the system overall doesn't get out of whack. So basically it'll be moving things between 3 and 4, maybe new groups that you have. So the residence period, again, is the time after which a document will be set to read only. That means you can't go back and edit or anything like that of that particular document. Now you can override that in the Lifecycle Management Work Center too, on a case-by-case basis. The retention period, like you might have, again, with the residents, you might have a large project that's open or something like that. You might want to set that to set all the subsequent documents to not go into read only. The retention period is the time after which a document can or will be deleted. So you'll see as we go through again that I can set up a run that'll show me the number of documents that are capable of being deleted, and then I can go through an actual deletion run. I don't have to, like when I run it, it doesn't intrinsically, for all periods, just remove the stuff. And then your retention settings can be modified, like I said, on a case-by-case basis, and you've got those and all my different rules in there. The next piece is just assigning that Information Lifecycle Management Work Center to your data privacy person or whoever's in charge of managing this. And just as an FYI, again, like I mentioned in the configuration, there's an old work center called Data Privacy Protection. It does say that it's deprecated, just to make sure that you don't, because it's the first one that's going to come up before ILM. So just make sure that you're not picking that by accident, otherwise you won't get really anything. And if you might have that put into like your admin or something like that, I would just remove it because you'll keep getting warnings and messages about it. But you'll see in here that you've got a lot of different functions, from blocking runs to looking at your business partners, all your deletion runs, and then different types of reports that will show. And then once we get into pop into the system in here and just kind of walk through this stuff live. When we actually get into the Information Lifecycle Management Work Center, you'll see a lot of different options in here. A couple of the things that you might want to, that you'll want to start configuring. The first thing would be your read access logging. So your field group configuration, as you'll see, a lot of different types of options that I can pull out in here. So things like your bank accounts. I know we were talking to someone that wanted to monitor when and if someone changed a supplier's bank account data, things like that. So you can actually see some of these pieces in here. And then any of your employee data, your customer data, any of the tax numbers. So a lot of the financial audit type of capabilities in here. When you want to activate one of these guys, you'll go into like customer ID as an example, any of the ones that are available here. And what you would do is first you're going to activate it. So you'll click activate. This is going to pop up with a little checkbox. And then you'll generate the field group configurations. It doesn't do anything like a pop-up or tell you that something's been done when you're going to do that. Like there's no sort of notification in there, but something does happen in the back, trust me, because I went through this when we were setting up for this. And then as you go into, and then we'll show that sort of in action of how things would change. And what the job runs. So there actually is a nightly job that'll run. It doesn't happen, like it's not immediately as soon as I make the change, it shows up in this log. It's like a nightly collector of everything that happened in the system, and then it consolidates everything by field type and then logs it for you. So the next thing that you would potentially want to run is this blocking run. And what this blocking run does is, depending on how you set this guy up, it will look for any business partners, again, any business partner in the system that is considered obsolete. So anytime you'll set it to obsolete, then it will run through there and say, okay, if it's been obsolete for 3 months, then block it, because I know I've obsoleted it. I'm not really doing any business. They haven't called me back in 3 months. Go ahead and block them. So that's that data run. And again, you can unblock any sort of business partner at any point in time, but this it's like a new mass data run, but it has the time parameters on it, and it'll move it from that obsolete status to the block status. I know some people ask, like, why do you have both? You have obsolete and you have block, and you can remove things and not. But once you block this, once you block the business partner, cool things kind of happen in the background, which is different from the obsolete. Again, we'll look at that in a few minutes, where it basically removes all the information related to that person from any of your reports and screens and things like that. So you won't be able to then see all that information. Right. And then related to ILM, there's also going to be different KPIs that come out of the box for you. I've gone into my Insights Work Center and I've just created a quick little snapshot of the different types of reports and KPIs that are available for you to monitor as the data privacy officer within your organization. So what you can actually see in here is like the number of documents. So how many documents you're processing, looking at by date of when different document types have been recorded. So within 2019, I had 57,000 and then 38. So I can just hover over those and see my different data. Again, the number of processes, I can flip this guy around and actually show the different types of processes that are being run. And then you'll see, based on your different retention runs that you're doing, the deletable or deleted type documents. And here I've got like 504, the different number of documents based on the year that they were created. And then the number of documents deleted. I'm a little gun shy to delete things, so we'll see that one as 0. Any of those, again, are going to be clickable, and you can drill through to any of the details and start to slice and dice by process. As you think further about the whole ILM topic, machine learning and RPA all come into the whole conversation. So within this whole concept, all the documents are really strung together, and you can see them in a nice map type form. And with that, you can start to change, like as your processes change, the system is keeping track of that. So this type of information can feed any of those machine learning type languages, and you'll see that, like if you're using the scanning, like this type of process is being used for that whole process. So we're being able to analyze, and then we can automate a lot of the processes by seeing how they string together on a natural basis, so on a regular basis. You have the whole capability to analyze all that with these types of reports. And then I can even look at my business documents, any of my business documents that are open, and then what type, and the number of documents, and then the number of processes that are impacted in here. So my different journal entries, what type of journal entries, I'm going to open up 27,000 different journal entries. So I can see that, and even as I get down to any of these guys, I can also drill down to the actual process or the document, or I can even look at probably not anything that's in there to be able to string just a journal entry together. But if I was like in an order to cash process, I'd be able to see all of the details related to kind of like the document flow, but really in a graphical type format. Great. So let's walk through the business partner blocking topic. Business partner blocking, it's not going to impact any of the reporting, your business documents or KPIs. All the information that's pertaining to or contains that is still there, but what you'll see is that that information gets blocked. So the blocked people get removed from reports or data sources. So again, another big difference, I think, between obsolete and blocked. Obsolete, I think you can still search for them. They'll still appear in lists and things like that, like your work lists, if you want them to. These block guys won't. Reports will not allow you to filter on any blocked people. If you want to see someone that you knew as a customer in the past, or a contact in the past, or an employee in the past, you want to look at them and what they did, you won't be able to. Navigation from reports to that person will not be available because you'll see them that they were blocked. And then any blocked data won't be transmitted via interfaces to data warehouses if you have like a data warehouse for other reporting. Let's walk through that as an example. As my business partners, what might happen is someone might call up and say, hey, I want you to show me all the information that is related to me. Maybe an employee, more likely than a customer, would show up and do that. But let's say that, I don't know, Jerry Carter came in, and you'll see let's say that she wants to, let me go to Frank because I didn't obsolete him. So Frank Stent was in here. He's not blocked for usage. His deletion hasn't been blocked, but he came in and he asked me to disclose his data. And it's as simple as that. Like, let's say Frank Miller asked that, you would just click on create your disclosure list. It'll sit in pending. It's going through, it's running through millions and millions of documents, you can imagine. So it takes probably about 10 to 15 minutes, I would say, at most, to run through, depending on the volume of transactions that you have running through that pertain to that particular business partner. This being the kind of golden contact that we have with that runs through all of our data. Frank Stent's got a lot, but what they can do now, and they can, as that data privacy officer, you can view and delete any data. But what you'll notice that in some of these things, whether they can be deleted or not. As I mentioned, there's certain data, like those things that are in group 1 and group 2, because they're integral to the process itself, it can't be deleted. In that case, when you can't delete the data, you're going to want to block the account or the contact, so you can't see anything that pertains to them. So you'll notice in here that you've got anything that says what the deletion status is of anything. So this is kind of a level down when you think about someone asked for their data, like again, let's say the employee asked for the data and everything that was in there, but they might not be in that particular realm of your retention policy. They can ask for you to delete anything else that's sitting out there immediately. And so what you would do is, like, do a couple things. Remove your business partners from any target groups. If they are contacting in campaigns, you can then block their usage. And then once you run this, anything that was deletable would be deleted. And then I can run my different, my information lifecycle report. So I can see at a glance if they wanted any sort of detail as to what kind of documents they touched, how many documents they touched, and things like that. And then depending on how you drill down, you can see even at that detailed level and be able to export this and print that out for them and send that to them, just so they have the records of what types of information that they were a part of. And again, you can download that whole bit into a zip file and send that off to them. They're also available to be exported in web service too. But you've got all kinds of different reports. So from your document report, and if they were in all kinds of outbound logistics and outbound documents, maybe you want to see the document reports related to the sales orders. So any sales order that Frank sent was involved with, I can drill into this data and then get sort of a more detailed level of analysis for any of the data. So if he wants to see overall, like how much data we had month over month for him, what he was the main contact for, things like that, we can send that type of report out on more of a detail type basis, because this guy's got thousands and thousands of records that are associated with him. All right. And so as an example, if I go back to our girl Jerry Carter, I've got her set up as obsolete. And so what will happen if I go into the accounts and I look at Cardinal Health is going to be who they were contact for. If I click into the account, Jerry's the only contact that was assigned to that customer. And now you'll see that there was in fact a contact there. They're now blocked. If I try to click on that and go into it, it says that can't be displayed anymore for privacy reasons. The data privacy officer in that information lifecycle management always has the ability to see that data and could retrieve that if they needed to. But yeah, they can bring that guy, or they can view that data at any time and revoke some of the obsolete or the block status. Right, so that is business partner blocking. And let's go back in here. So the other run that you'll have is that lifecycle analysis run. I would set this up just on a job that's going to run maybe monthly, depending on how often you're going to do it. I mean, it's all going to depend on the rules that you set up. If you have things that are set up on, you know, end of the year basis, it doesn't make any sense to run it year over year because you're just running it for the end of the year. The only things that it'll pick up on that monthly basis, if you think about how our processes work, if I'm trying to delete a sales order that's within, like maybe I have a long-standing, again, a long-standing project is probably a better example, and the sales order, like maybe it's a 3, 4, 5 year project, and my data disclosure and my data residence, my data retention are 2 years and 4 years as an example. My sales order might should go into a read-only type status and potentially get deleted, but the system will understand and know that it's linked to another predecessor or successor type activity within the system, being the project, the invoices, everything else, and it'll remove it from that run. So it'll say, nope, don't do it until the rest of the chain is completed. So the only things that'll get picked up if like you have a year-end residence and retention policy are going to be things like throughout the months that are kind of, you know, limping on in from predecessor activities. But it does take a bit of time. Again, they say that like 5 million records isn't a whole lot, but I think I have less than or about 1 million records or transactions in my system. And it took about 8 to 10 minutes to run. So basically I would set it up at midnight, let it run at the end of the month, end of the year, and then pop it in. And then that actually will feed all of those KPIs and the analytics, and we can kind of show you those then too. The other piece is going to be that log display. So in my example, for my field configurations, I had these guys set up as the employee disability data status, and then the hiring stat and the hiring data are the things that I was logging. So as I mentioned, every time at night, it's going to run the job. And then you'll be able to see through that show read access log. It's going to pop in and going to give you a zip file. So what you'll see is kind of the number of queries that happened, the common queries, the analytics requests. So everything went across maybe different reports to see what was changed, other sorts like, you know, the queries, whether someone looked at it or somebody changed something or things like that. And then it will respond, oops, sorry, oops. And then it will respond back to you in this common file that's here that can be reviewed. Let's put this up on my next screen here. So for the different personnel details for a particular employee, we can see all of the information that the user, the admin 01 and that HRM 02 had created something, the timestamp that it was done. And then the information that was changed. So I have on my logging the bank account holder data, and then the employer bank account ID are in for my logging, and then you can see which employee did that and then be able to look up that information. So that is the case for that guy. And again, it's going to show you everything that falls into that category there. Into the system. I think that might be about it. So we looked at the life cycle analysis runs. Again, when we go back into those analysis runs, you can see sort of what happened for any of these things. It'll go through your whole, the whole system. And when I went through mine, I had some things that there's things that are no life cycle items found. There's no, it'll show me certain project cost estimates because like they're open to have longer term projects. This is, again, this will give you some indication. Hopefully you don't have as many in here as I do. Like what the system will do is it'll identify everything for residents and retention within this run, but it'll also, and it won't show you what it actually processed successfully, but it's going to show you the errors. So you might, in certain cases, I might not be able to update certain time confirmations or cost estimates or whatever because they're longer term projects. At that point, I can go into my life cycle items themselves and be able to override or overrule the retention settings on things. So something's at the end of retention, and then I can overrule that or override that to set it to an unlimited or set a different date period, log the reasons again, then I can always specify that some other big decision, and then I can report on those if I'm going to make any sorts of changes to those different types of retention periods. Okay. And then I think just kind of drilling into the just the dashboards themselves, of being able to the KPIs, of being, you know, what you can get out of these different things, of looking at the number of documents that are deletable. Again, these, if you want to add these into your dashboards, these are all, if I pop in, actually jumping around for 1 second, within business analytics, you'll see in your KPIs, SAP Delivered KPIs. If you don't spend a lot of time in here, your admins don't, you just filter on number, And now you'll have in here the number of documents deleted, number of documents, number of processes, and number of documents deletable. Those are SAP all delivered KPIs that come out of the box. And then if you want to change things like, I don't know, if you have any sort of metrics on how many documents are deleted or retained or things like that, you can quickly adapt those. As you notice, a lot of the built-in reports or the pie charts looked exactly the same in there. So you might change the report in the selected view. So anything that was delivered by SAP is all modifiable, but if you mess up on it, there's also a revert button that'll take you back to what they actually delivered for you. You might find that some of these different processes or reports that you want to modify for things like values and thresholds, if you have different alert or warning points, or if you want to have again, even additional context or different reports that you can drill to within the KPI, that's all available in there. Popping back into this area, we'll just jump into the number of documents that are deleted. And again, any of these are going to be be able to drill down then into any of those areas. And then you also have the ability to view the process or view the document itself. If I want to look at operational purchasing, that's going to then drill me into that particular area, and then I can run just within this specific area itself. It's going to all filter down all the different lifecycle items where I can override any of the retention settings and run any specific reports as well. So this time administration one is not going to be a good one. Let's go into operational purchasing. And so one of those other reports are like this network analysis. I think this is the right one, sorry. If it's not, this might get me jammed up. It took me, oh, there it is. Okay, so this is kind of what I was talking about, this whole network analysis, which is like a spider chart of sort of incepting from a particular document, all the other things that are impacted and how much impact it had. And this is one of those areas that, again, when you talk about machine learning and RPA, or robotic process automation, where the system can say, all right, if I'm doing a service order, 9 times out of 10, I'm initiating it from a sales quote, and then 8 times out of 10, I'm going to a service confirmation. So if as you're starting to analyze that and then looking at all the other information of like when other people are accessing the data, we can start to automate any of those things, or have some machine learning to be able to automate some workflow within each of the individual business documents. Okay, so I think that is all that I needed to cover today in this session. And thanks for joining us. Again, as you get into this topic, there's tons of great blogs that are out there for you to go. There's Jan Mathis, who's the product manager of this, has done an amazing job of creating tons of blogs and tons of YouTube videos that really step you through this process and everything that's available, and the power of what you can do with the information in here. All right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Laura. As always, it was fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and keep an eye out for that recording that will be sent in a couple of days here. And then don't forget to join us next week. As we said, that is Wednesday, May 12th already, and that's going to be tenant refreshes in SAP Business ByDesign. Thanks again, Laura, and thanks again, everyone. We will see you next week.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.